I kept my eyes locked on the elderly woman while I pumped her gas. She stood right next to me the whole time, returning the eye contact with just as much intensity. She was a tiny old thing, skinny and frail and unassuming, the perfect killer. "What are you holding that baseball bat for?" she asked. I narrowed my eyes at her and responded, "Wouldn't you like to know?" Finally, the nozzle switched off to indicate that the tank was full, and I pulled it out and put it in its cradle, still keeping eye contact with her, never daring to turn or look away. "Well, how much was it?" she asked. "Look and see for yourself," I said, gesturing towards the pump. "I can't see that far without my glasses. Would you be a dear and tell me what it says?" "If you can't see the price on the pump, maybe you shouldn't be driving." "What are you, my doctor?" We both stood there in awkward silence for a moment longer, until finally she turned and climbed into the driver's seat, calling back to me, "Why don't you come over here for a second? I'd like to give you a tip for being such a kind young man." "That's okay. No tip necessary." She stepped out of the car again with a small yellow purse in her hands, an image of Pikachu's face proudly displayed across the front, and reached inside to pull out a single piece of hard candy wrapped in cellophane. She extended it in my direction with a friendly, "Here, I'd like you to have this, as a token of my sincere gratefulness." "Put it on the roof." "What?" "Put the candy on the roof of the vehicle and step away from it." She did as I asked. "More, please." She took another step back. "More, Aggie." She took another step back. I walked over to the candy, grabbed it quickly, then stuffed it into my pocket. "Okay, thanks for stopping by. You have a wonderful night." I turned and made my way back towards the gas station as fast as I could run. I'd almost gotten to the doors when I felt myself suddenly being lurched backwards, hard enough that I dropped the bat onto the ground. I looked over my shoulder to see old Aggie standing there with a grin, her hand wrapped around the slack of my hoodie, holding me in place. "Aren't you forgetting my receipt?" she asked with an insane glimmer in her eye. I quickly took off my hoodie and jumped away from the old woman, or whatever it was, pretending to be the old woman. In the half second it took me to lose my outerwear, she had switched sides on me, now standing right between me and the gas station. "Look, lady, I'll get you a receipt. Hell, I'll get you all the receipts. But you're going to have to go and wait in your car. Deal?" I looked at the ground where I'd dropped the bat, but Aggie had already reached and stepped over it, moving ever closer to me. I stepped back. She stepped forward. I stepped back. She stepped forward. This didn't make any sense. I was so much taller than her, matching each step, but somehow she was closing the distance, walking me away from the safety of the building one step at a time, until finally my back hit the side of her vehicle. "Oh, Jack, you poor little thing. Let me put you out of your misery already." She reached into her Pikachu purse and pulled out a nail file. "I can make it clean if you want. One quick jab." She demonstrated the motion with a malevolent smile. "And then it all goes away. All your stress gone. All your problems no more. I'll do you this favor and everyone will be better off. Hey, what do you say?" She was now within striking distance, but something told me I wasn't going to be much of a match against her in hand-to-hand Mortal Kombat. Tempting, but how about a counter-proposal? How about you leave me alone and then neither of us has to die tonight? Pretty good idea, right? And that way we don't have to worry about, "Oh my God, what is that?" I screamed and pointed over Aggie's head. She spun around to see what I was talking about, and I took the opportunity to dive into the open passenger side door of her car, then right through to the driver's side, pausing for a split second to check and see if maybe the keys were still in the ignition. But of course they weren't. So I kept moving, jumping down and prepping to make a break for it. But somehow Aggie was already on the other side, waiting for me like a slightly less creepy Pepe Le Pew. "Crap!" I yelled. "Going somewhere?" No. Just, I just dropped my contact lens. Would you mind helping me look for it? You check out here. I'll go inside." I looked all around for any kind of weapon or weapon-like object, Given what I'd already seen, I knew I could never outrun this little old bird to my baseball bat, and then the only thing on me was a cheap cell phone and 2.5 decades worth of bad decisions, neither of which were going to do much good. I was getting desperate. I silently cursed that stupid bounty hunter for not leaving me his can of mace. But then I saw the small fire extinguisher hanging from the column by the pump. "Jack, it's been fun. It's been real. It's been real fun. But it's time already. Why fight it? Nobody's going to miss you. You're nothing but a simple nutcase." "Yeah? Well, you're nothing but a simple nut face." She gave me a puzzled look and then asked, "What?" Before she could get the word out, I'd already grabbed the fire extinguisher and swung it as hard as I possibly could. It connected with her old feeble lady face with an incredibly gratifying thonk that echoed against the gas station and launched the woman onto the ground. Whoa, that was incredible, I thought. I actually did it. I beat up an old woman. Well, when I think of it like that, it's not really something to brag about. But then things got worse. A lot worse. "Well, well, well," she said as she sat up. "Looks like somebody thinks he can fight. Is that all you got, you dick?" I nearly dropped the fire extinguisher at the sight of her. The woman's skull was dented inside itself, her nose flattened into the face, the blood pouring freely from the 3-inch tear in her upper lip. I caught myself. This was not the time to freeze up. This was the time to finish what I started before it was too late. I gripped the extinguisher, stepped forward, closed my eyes, and swung the weapon straight down like I was chopping firewood. Again, it connected with a loud, wet thonk, and I could feel the splatter of hot blood bounce up onto my face. Just to be sure, I swung it again. She was on the ground now. Thunk. I swung one more time, smashing into what was left of her face. Then I stood up, took a step back, opened my eyes, and instantly wished I hadn't. It was a pretty nasty sight to behold. I took a long, deep breath and tried to relax. But then old fake Aggie had to ruin that. She sat back up again and made a hideous vocalization from her mouth opening. Her tongue flapped around wildly. The bottom jaw was barely hanging on. One of her eyes dangled out of its socket, and brain matter dripped from the broken crevice in the center of what was once her head. Sorry, what was that?" She put her hands up to hold her jaw in place, then proceeded to move her mouth hinge manually as she spoke these next words. "Oh, Jack, you dumb bitch. You had better freaking run." She dropped her jaw and reached for the ground, and I realized this crazy lady was about to stand up and go for round 2. I dropped the fire extinguisher, booked it around the car to retrieve the baseball bat, then came to where Aggie was still attempting and failing to get herself to her feet. I lifted the bat over my head and said, "I'm sorry." She gurgled some words at me that I couldn't even begin to understand, but I like to pretend it was something like, "Go ahead and finish me off, and don't let this action burden your conscience for the rest of your life, because you are completely justified and forgiven." But really, who knows? I swung the bat against the top of her head, laying her out yet again. Then I proceeded to smash her brains in, swinging over and over, until there really wasn't much of anything left. I was exhausted and Aggie was dead, and I needed to sit down and wrap my head around this whole thing. I leaned against the hood of her vehicle while I tried to think. I made it. It was a little touch and go there for a second, but I got through. And now I had yet another dead body to worry about. I could probably wrap her up in a tarp and stuff her in the walk-in cooler, but then I'd have to figure out something to do with her vehicle. And what was I going to say? The driver's side mirror on her Jeep Wrangler exploded off just a few inches from my face, and I felt something stinging my ear. What the... Wait, was that a gunshot? Where did a gunshot? Oh no! At the edge of the gas station parking lot, there was a black Toyota Tundra parked with the lights turned off. The driver's side window was rolled down and the driver was pointing a rifle at me. I dropped to the ground and Army crawled under the Jeep as another shot rang out, hitting the back bumper. Then another barely missed me and hit the back right tire, which whistled and quickly deflated. Whoever was in the truck, he was ready to end my life. And right now, I was a sitting duck. I scooted out from under the car, trying to keep the gas pump between me and the truck, but then I heard the engine roar to life and the Tundra sped into the parking lot and came to a screeching stop right on the other side of the pump. I looked at the ground in front of me to see the pool of old lady blood spreading across the pavement and wondered if maybe this wasn't the person I was supposed to kill. Another shot rang out, ricocheting off the hood of the Jeep. Then the truck engine cut off, and a second passed before the driver yelled out, "Hey, Jack, is that you?" I knew that voice. It was a guy from town named Brian. He was a few years younger than me, and like most people from around here, he was short-tempered, stupid, and well-armed. "Yeah, it's me." "Ah, yes. I get to kill one of them gas station Riris." I could hear the sound of his door open and him stepping out onto the ground. "Wait, you don't have to kill me." "I don't have to kill you," he said. From the sound of his voice, I could tell that he was right on the other side of the pump, just a couple feet away. "I get to kill you." I could hear the sound of him fitting a shell into his shotgun, then the click-clack of the round going into place. My bat wasn't going to be much use right now, and not just because I accidentally dropped it when the firing started and it had rolled away, and I had no idea where it went. Agatha's Pikachu purse was sitting right next to the remains of her body, soaking in blood and brain matter. I crawled towards her and reached for it, hoping that maybe there was something in there I could use. But as my fingers touched the purse, Aggie's hand snapped up and wrapped around my wrist with a python grip. I screamed, stood up, and started kicking at her arm, until she finally released and fell back into a slump. Then I turned around, coated in blood, and holding a poker purse, to see Brian standing there with a shotgun. He was donned head to toe in camouflage, with a camo hat and a confused smile. I stepped away from Aggie, and Brian walked over to inspect my unholy work. I could see he wasn't in much of a hurry, but his finger was on the trigger, and it wouldn't take him but a second to raise his weapon and end me. Now, I know how this probably looks. It looks bad, right? It looks like I just beat an old woman to death with a baseball bat. "And a fire extinguisher," he added. "Yeah, and a fire extinguisher. But I can assure you that's not what happened here." He looked away from Aggie and brought his eyes up to meet mine, saying, "I don't give a crap." "Oh, okay. So, you're a killer, huh? I always suspected that about you." I tried taking a few steps back because, hey, that always seems to work out, right? But Brian just started walking forward, keeping the same distance between us. "I'm not a killer, Brian. This is just a colossal misunderstanding. I can't wait to see what it feels like to kill a person. They'll probably give me a reward for it, killing the guy that brutally murdered Miss Sistrunk." "No, not really. I mean, the justice system can be pretty tricky. You should probably think this through. You want to make a run for it? Go ahead, I'll let you. Start running. I'll even count to 10 before I start shooting." Of course, I didn't believe him. The second I couldn't keep him talking anymore, he was going to shoot to kill. There was no way around it. But then I saw Aggie rise and start walking. She was right behind him, her arms extended, something terribly off about the way her face debris was reconstructing itself. I made a split-second decision to do nothing, to not say anything to Brian. And I'll always wonder if he would have looked if I had given him a warning, or if that would have even mattered. I like to think it wouldn't have made any difference. The thing pretending to be Aggie wrapped her arms around Brian's torso from behind. "Hey, what the Then she started squeezing, tighter and tighter, until blood erupted from Brian's mouth, and he fell over at the crease in his middle, where Agatha had nearly squeezed him in half. And amazingly, that wasn't even the grossest thing I was seeing. Aggie herself was growing back her head. Half a dozen slimy black tendrils wiggled out of the opening in her neck like giant slugs, attaching to the meat and bones and tongue and eyes and squeezing them back into place until she was a black and red skull with a head full of white hair. And then she jerked Brian backwards and bit into him. More blood sprayed from his neck where her teeth had attached, and black slugs extended from her mouth and nose and into the fresh neck wound on her victim. His gun clacked to the ground, and I took another step back. I've seen some stuff, but that was some whole other level crazy. Brian's skin went pale and then white with a face frozen into a look of eternal horror as the slugs drained every ounce of blood from his body, and once he was spent and dried out, Agatha let his corpse drop hollowly to the ground. She reached up to where the slug tendrils had reformed her wrinkly, broken skin. Then she grabbed it with both hands and ripped off her own face like an old fleshy mask, revealing a new, wet face underneath. One that looked just like the old one, only with no wounds, or tears, or blood. Like a snake shedding skin, she had molted into another perfectly normal Agatha. She smiled at me for a moment, until she abruptly doubled over and barfed about a gallon of dark, lumpy blood all over the pavement. While she was vomiting, I finally snapped open her purse and reached inside for the nail file she'd shown me earlier. But that's when my hands touched something else. Something large and metallic. I looked down to see that there was an enormous handgun inside her purse. Some kind of fancy revolver. Well, that's better than a nail file. I pulled it out and pointed it at her. "Hey, Aggie, dodge this." She looked up to see me aiming the weapon and watched as I fired at her at point-blank range. And totally freaking dodged it. She moved with the speed of a gazelle on crack, lurching to the side, snatching up the fallen body of Brian and holding him over her head. I fired again, but she had already darted away, ripping off Brian's arm and flinging it in my direction like a boomerang. It collided with the gun hard enough to knock it free and send it skidding across the ground. I hugged my hand and started backing away, trying to see where the old lady had ended up, and then realizing that she was right next to me. She smiled. "You gotta be a lot faster than that, boy." The radio gave me a 76% chance of outmatching this lady. Are you kidding? She took a swing at me. I saw it coming and jumped back. And even though my reflexes in that moment were uncharacteristically in tune, she still connected. Her claws snagged at my chest, leaving 4 neat rips in the front of my t-shirt. For a second, I felt pretty good, like I'd actually managed to dodge an attack for once. But then I felt it. The sharp pain of 4 parallel cuts sliced into my chest, and I could feel the blood running down my front. "Ow," I said. Agatha licked her fingernails in an incredibly gross manner, but then she froze. Her eyes slowly widened and her mouth dropped open. If I didn't know any better, I'd say she actually looked scared. And then she started to glow, bright and green. And not for the first time that week, or day, or hour, or even minute, I found myself wondering, what the hell is happening? Agatha took a few steps backwards, and I realized that she wasn't the one glowing. The aura of light was coming from directly behind me. I looked back to see the raccoon creature standing there, teeth on display, ears pulled sharply back, and glowing fiercely. "Easy there, Rita," Agatha said calmly. "I don't want any trouble with you." The raccoon monster, Rita, barked at her. The noise was even louder than the gunshots, and they made Aggie jump. "That's right," I screamed. "I have a pet dragon. Who's the boy now, huh?" In retrospect, I realized that my smack talk could probably use a little work, but cut me some slack. I'd just been through a lot. "Okay, looks like we're going to have to call this one a draw," Aggie said as she turned around and walked back towards her Jeep. She stopped along the way to pick up Brian's arm, and then Brian's shotgun, and then Brian's the rest of him. She got it all with one hand like she were simply collecting pieces of trash. Then she chucked it all into the back of her vehicle and drove away on a flat tire. "Well?" I asked. Benjamin seemed annoyed. "Well, what?" I just, this is usually the part where you interrupt my story. It's a perfectly logical break, so I wanted to see if you had anything to add or criticize, any theories to float around, any insults or lectures about what I could or should have done better.
No, Jack, I got nothing to say. We're both in uncharted waters here.
I was afraid you'd say that. I took the whiskey and poured myself another round. And that's not even the worst of it.
You're friends?
Yeah.
Okay, let's get back to it then.
Despite my hopes, Rita didn't stick around for long. Once Aggie had gone, Rita turned and darted back into the woods before I could even say thank you. I went back inside and tried to calm down, trying to figure out what my next move should be. But after what I'd just seen, I knew exactly what we were really dealing with, more or less. Aggie was replaced. She was one of them, one of those things. She was strong, she was fast, and she was able to regenerate and willing to kill. And for some reason, she had it out for me. There were dozens of others that the radio had already identified as being replaced, and those were just the ones we knew about. This was shaping up to be a lot worse than I'd thought. Daniel came in to start his shift a few hours later. When he saw me, he froze and asked, "You know your ear is bleeding?" I touched it and winced at the pain. He was right. A piece of Aggie's mirror must have sliced it open after the bullet hit. I was not aware, thank you. Were you also not aware that you look like a bear slashed open your chest? I looked down at my t-shirt and the large circle of dried blood around the 4 scratch marks. Oh, yeah, you're right. I guess it's probably a little too late to get stitches, huh? Dude, are you okay? Yeah, why? Daniel looked around the room and then asked, "Why don't I take over the register and you can go get cleaned up?" Great idea. I hit the bathroom and ran some hot water. I then stripped down to my underwear and counted the bruises and scratches. That fight to the death ended up being a lot weirder than I had expected, and in the end, the only person to die was some random passerby. Sure, he was trying to kill me, but I'm not completely sure he deserved to get slug-tongued to death by a headless Aggie vampire. Oh wow. Throw that on the pile of sentences I never thought I'd hear myself say. I cleaned my wounds best I could in the given situation, splashed some water on my face for good measure, then got dressed and went back out to the front. Before I got to the register, I realized that something was wrong outside. Once Daniel saw me, he blurted out, "Hey, Jack, I've been meaning to talk to you about my paycheck." "Where's the truck?" "What?" "There was a black Toyota Tundra outside by the pumps. Where is it?" Daniel looked out the windows. "Oh, I guess he must have moved it after he finished pumping gas." That's when I saw it was parked right outside the gas station in the spot closest to the door. Who moved it?" "What? Who moved the truck?" "You're really trying to avoid answering this paycheck question, aren't you?" "Damn it, Daniel. Who moved the truck?" "Oh, okay. All right. It was that guy." Daniel pointed behind me, and I turned to see a man dressed in all camouflage with a camo hat on top. He was crouched down next to the fishing supplies, and his hands were full of junk food. He grabbed a lure, then stood and walked up to the register. As Brian walked past, he didn't even acknowledge me. He dropped the items on the counter, let Daniel ring them up, and then walked outside to his truck and drove away. "Everything okay, Jack?" I walked behind the counter, reached down and picked up my notebook where I'd written down all the names of everyone who had been replaced. Then I jotted down Brian's name at the bottom of the list with an asterisk next to it. Daniel tried again. "Jack?" "You're fired, Daniel. I can't afford to pay you anymore." "Wow. Okay." Daniel nodded, took off his name badge, and dropped it on the counter. "Well, that's all right, I guess. I was planning on quitting anyway." He grabbed a roll of lotto scratch-offs and said, "By the way, I'm keeping these. Knock yourself out." With that, he left the store, and I picked up the phone and dialed Jerry's number. It rang, and rang, and rang, and rang, and rang, and rang. I tried Jerry's number a few more times before deciding to take a break, reminding myself that it was still pretty early in the morning, and most people in this town actually sleep. and I didn't have any real reason to start worrying yet. Well, except for the fact that a near indestructible, slug tongued monster grandma had just attempted to murder me, or the fact that she got away no worse for the wear. And I doubt Jerry, the only other person as deep into this weirdness as me, would have the wherewithal to see an attack like that coming. I tried his number again, then again about an hour later, but still no answer. Then an hour after that, nothing. I even tried calling his cell phone a few times, but, no surprise, those calls all went straight to voicemail. Wherever he was, his cell wasn't getting any reception, or it was turned off. I tried to tell myself that everything was okay, but when he still hadn't shown up or called by the time he was supposed to start his morning shift, I really started to panic. Say what you will about Jerry's relaxed attitude about rules and laws, but he was always punctual. The last time he'd been late to work, it was because he was in the hospital getting a bullet removed. I tried O'Brien's phone next. When she answered, she was out of breath and sounded slightly aggravated. Hello? Hey, sorry, is this a bad time? Yeah, I'm a little busy. Everything okay? Not trying to be rude, but when I said that, I was a little busy. Got it. What do you need? Jerry didn't show up for his shift today. I tried calling, but he didn't answer. Now I've got a really bad feeling. I was thinking, you want me to drive out and check on him? Well, yeah, do you mind? Is there a reason you think he may be in some kind of trouble? Well, it is Jerry we're talking about. You're right. But was there any specific reason today? I've never been very good at lying, especially not to her, but I tried my best anyway. No. Somehow I could hear her rolling her eyes from the other side of the call. Okay, here's the deal. I'm not going to be able to tear myself away from my duty right now, but I'll send somebody out to check on him and report back. I'll call you once I know something. Thanks, Amy. You're the best. I waited for a response, but when none came, I realized that she had already hung up. Whatever she was in the middle of, it must have been important. An incredibly uncomfortable half hour passed without any new information, sending my lingering sense of dread into overdrive. With nothing better to do, I called his number again and let it ring for almost 5 minutes straight until finally, hello? My blood ran cold. Somebody had picked up on the other end, but that wasn't Jerry. The words fell out of my mouth. What did you do with Jerry, you dickhead? The man on the other side of the phone asked, Who is this? Who is this? No. Who is you? I mean, is this... who are you? What? This is Jack. Damn. He tricked me. Whoever this was, he was good. Oh, Jack from the gas station. Maybe. That depends. Who wants to know? It's Deputy Love. I'm here doing a drive-by wellness check for O'Brien, but if this is the right place, there's nobody here. And you just answered the phone? Well, I wasn't planning on it, but it wouldn't stop ringing. O'Brien didn't say what it is I'm supposed to be looking for here. Would you mind telling me what's going on? You don't see any puddles of blood or signs of, like, a fight or anything, do you? Hang on. Let me check. Nope. He didn't actually take any time to check, and I couldn't help but feel he wasn't taking this seriously. Jerry didn't come into work today, and I'm worried that he's in some kind of trouble. Why? What? Why are you worried? Did he say something? Is he involved in some kind of illegal activity? It's okay. You can tell me. I'm a cop. Anything you say stays between us. Does that actually work? I deal with a lot of stoners. Look, here's the deal. I'd be willing to bet your pal is probably off somewhere hanging out. But if you think his being late to work constitutes the need for a missing persons report, you'll have to come down to the station and go through the process just like everybody else. We can't treat you special just because of whatever's going on between you and O'Brien. Understand? That took me by surprise. What's going on between me and O'Brien? None of my business. Something about the way Deputy Love sought to do nothing more than the bare minimum of police work left me with the sense that, in another life, he would have made a great gas station clerk. Will you at least go and check to see if his wallet and phone are sitting next to his bed? I've walked around this place like 10 times. Gotta be 30 beds here at least. You'll have to tell me which one is his. While you're at it, mind telling me what the hell this place even is? I found it very strange how little Deputy Love knew about this town. But before I could fill him in, I heard him say, "Hold on, there's something here." He screamed this next part. "Sheriff's Department, stay right where you are!" I yelled into the receiver, "Who is it? Is it Jerry?" "Oh no! I'll call you back," he yelled before hanging up and leaving me in total suspense. I took a second to allow the momentary panic to wear off. Then I dialed another number. Rosa picked up on the third ring with a sleepy, "Hello?" "Hey, Rosa, did I wake you?" "Jack, no, I was just sleeping." "Sorry. It's okay. What's up?" "Have you heard from Jerry recently?" "Not since yesterday. Why?" "He was supposed to be here half an hour ago, but he still hasn't shown up, and I'm getting worried." Rosa was the first person not to question why I was worried. She already understood, and that was such a huge relief. She just said, "I can be there in 15. "Great, thank you. And one more thing. Would you mind bringing an extra t-shirt?" Rosa showed up 20 minutes later looking a little frazzled, but maybe that was just her natural reaction to seeing me in my current state. She'd brought an oversized t-shirt with a cartoon bug-eyed dog beneath the words "Pug Life," and I threw it on directly over the remains of the shirt I was already wearing, then zipped up my hoodie over it. "Thanks," I said. She looked around the gas station for a second, then asked nervously, "What's going on?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, why do you look like you just lost a fight to a lawnmower? And where's O'Brien?" Her eyes got big as a thought hit her. "Is it Spencer? Is he back?" "No, not Spencer." The part I didn't say was, "This is much worse than Spencer." "Then what?" "I had a couple of unruly customers last night. Had to ask them to leave." "Oh my goodness. Are you okay? Did you call the cops?" Right then, almost like it were following some cosmic cue, a sheriff's department cruiser pulled into the parking lot. I noticed it before Rosa and instantly reached under the counter to make sure the baseball bat was still there. "Rosa, come around with me," I said with my eyes trained on the vehicle. I could see now that it was Deputy Love behind the wheel, pulling into the closest spot. He left the car running as he stepped out. "What?" Rosa asked, confused. "Come over here and stay close behind me." "Why?" Oh, great. She's going to pick now to start asking questions again? "Please." She must have detected the urgency in my voice because she did as I asked, walking behind the counter and standing right behind me. She whispered nervously, "Is something bad about to happen?" I doubt my answer was much comfort, but it was the truth. I don't know. Love squeezed himself through the front door and came right up to the counter. That short walk from the car to here was enough to leave him out of breath. Was this the same guy I was speaking with on the phone less than half an hour earlier? Or was he another one of those things? "Hey there, Deputy. Long time no see. What brings you in this morning?" "Bore," he said angrily. I slowly started to pull the bat from its spot beneath the register, trying to be careful that the deputy didn't see what I was doing. I don't know what that means," I responded in a friendly, unassuming, totally non-suspicious manner. The deputy closed his eyes and rubbed them with the palm of his hands. This would have been the perfect opportunity to get a surprise attack in, but I couldn't do something like that without being certain. So I waited until after he'd finished and returned his look to me. "There was a wild boar in there at your friend's place. It chased me up one of the bunk beds. I tried calling for help, but apparently cell phones don't get service out there." Rosa peeked out from behind me to ask, "How did a wild boar get in there?" Deputy Love seemed startled at the sight of her. "Oh, hello, young lady. I didn't see you there." I took a small step to the side to cut off their line of eye contact. I still didn't know what I was dealing with, but I wasn't going to drop my guard just yet. Luckily, Love didn't seem to notice or care. As for the boar, I'm tempted to believe your friend Jerry lured it in there on purpose. Why would you think that? I asked. Well, it had a bow on top of its head, and its hooves were painted. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say your crazy friend was keeping that thing as a pet. I've seen tweakers do some stupid crap, but that takes the cake. Rosa stepped out from behind me, but stayed close to my side. You didn't hurt it, did you? Yeah, I'm fine. Thanks for asking. No, I didn't hurt the boar. I had to outrun it back to the car. That thing was as mad as a cut snake. Now I knew he wasn't being honest with us. You outran the boar? Yeah. You outran the boar. Deputy Love crossed his arms. Well, you don't have to be mean about it, but no, okay? I had a Cliff Bar in my pocket. I threw it and got out of there while the thing was distracted. A Cliff Bar? All right, fine. It was a Snickers. Are you happy now, Jack? Does that really matter? Does it change anything at all? Frig. I thought O'Brien said you were cool. Right then, I had a bad idea and took it on impulse, grabbing the praline from the display and tossing it at the deputy's face. It smacked him right in the nose and bounced off onto the counter. Ow! Jack! What the hell? He didn't have that same unnatural reaction time that Evil Aggie had shown. I could assume that meant he probably wasn't another one of them. And if he was, he probably hadn't come here to kill us yet. I went ahead and pushed the bat back into its place, hoping Rosa would have the good sense to at least wait until we were alone before asking why I had it. Sorry, I was going to offer you a free praline, but it slipped. You can't just go around fastballing candy into people's faces like that. Come on, Jack. You know that's a felony, right? Holy crap, today just keeps getting better and better. Am I bleeding? He tilted his head back and gestured for me to look up his nostrils. No, you're not bleeding. Consider yourself lucky. He reached down and took the praline. I will take this, though. Blood sugar, you know. He opened the package and took a bite, saying, Anyway, I just wanted to come out here and get the ball rolling on your friend's missing person report. Because when he shows back up, I'm going to smack him upside the head for playing with dangerous animals. Those things carry rabies, you know. Oh, okay. Love finished his snack, then pulled a notepad and pen from his breast pocket. First off, what's your friend's whole name? Jerry. We don't know. He never actually gave us a last name, just a whole bunch of firsts. Rosa chimed in with a confused look on her face. What? No, his last name is I reached out and pinched her arm. She squeaked and jumped back. I tried to offer an innocent smile to the deputy while he bounced his eyes between the two of us. He said his next part slowly. You don't know your friend's last name? Is that absolutely necessary? I asked. Well, technically no, I guess, but it sure would help. Why don't you just tell me everything you do know about him? Where's he from? Is he local? Does he have any family? I did my best to answer his questions without giving anything away about Jerry's real identity. If Dr. Howard was even somewhat right, I knew Jerry wouldn't want to be attached to any kind of public police file. But at the same time, I needed to know he was okay, and if that meant getting the law involved, then so be it. It was a very tricky job trying to thread that needle. No family, and not local. Has he got anywhere he likes to go and hang out? Just here. Really? He muttered something under his breath that sounded like, that's messed up. Does he have any friends? Anybody he likes to spend time with outside of work? Just us. He mumbled again. Then, is he dating anybody? Girlfriend? Boyfriend? I don't think he's seeing anyone at the moment, but I looked at Rosa. She finished my answer. Not that I know of. All right, can you at least tell me what he looks like? Because right now I don't even have enough to start a report. Rosa and I looked at each other for a second, but I decided to tackle that question. Well, let's see. He's tall, but not that tall. Scraggly blonde hair, but it still looks like that intentionally unintentional look, and he's usually in need of a shave. Rosa chimed in. Athletic. Yeah, I agreed. But not overly so. Not buff. Like he looks like he plays soccer, but like Mexican soccer, you know? Rosa elaborated. He's thin, but fit. He's got like a dancer's body, really blue eyes, and he's normally smiling. Like, I bet he probably smiles in his sleep. Smells like cigarettes and breath mints. Surprisingly good posture. Yeah, I noticed that too, I said. And he's got a few tattoos, but you won't see them unless he's shirtless, which he might be. Rosa picked it up next. His teeth are totally movie star straight, which is annoying because he's always smoking and he's going to ruin that perfect smile. And he acts like he doesn't care, but I think he secretly does. I nodded. But that's just the way he carries himself in general. Like, he doesn't care. Totally doing his own thing. It's so frustrating sometimes, Rosa blurted out. But he's also extremely caring. The kind of guy who will always take the time to catch a giant spider and put it outside instead of killing it. Love wasn't writing any of this down. Instead, he just stared at us. Do you two have an actual photograph of him? I think that might work out better than whatever the hell this is. Oh, Rosa said, catching herself. Yeah, sorry. I've got a recent one on my phone, but it's in the car. Hang on, I'll be right back. As she circled around the counter and went outside, Love watched her go, then turned to me and said, Damn, Jack. How many girlfriends do you have? What? She's not my girlfriend. I was making conversation. I don't actually care. Gotcha. While I got you alone here, let me ask you this. Was Jerry depressed? No, I don't think so. I leaned over to make sure Rosa was still at her car. You sure? Because based on everything you just told me. Where's O'Brien? The mental gear shift seemed to take him by surprise. That was fine by me. I didn't care for the direction he was taking things, and it was already obvious that he wouldn't be much help in figuring out what happened to Jerry. After a few long seconds, he responded, I'm not supposed to say, but she's on some kind of super secret assignment. Not that I even know any of the details. Nobody around here tells me anything. But she probably won't be available anytime soon. Now back to your friend. I'm asking because it makes a difference if we're looking for a missing person or if we're looking for a body. Now I felt something I hadn't felt in a while. Real anger. I tried my best to keep it down as I responded. Well, if it's not too much trouble, Deputy, let's assume he's alive. Love stuck around for about 10 more minutes, asking pointless questions and doing little more than wasting precious time. When he finally left, it was with a warning for us to leave this to the professionals. As soon as he was out of the building, I turned to Rosa and said, I'm going to Jerry's place. Do you mind watching the gas station? What? No. Good. Thank you. What? No, I meant, yes, I do mind. Rosa. I'm coming with you. He's my friend, too. I took a deep breath. She was persistent, and I knew I couldn't talk her out of this. I'd already wasted enough time already, and there was no point in arguing. Fine. Right then, old Bob Hoover appeared on the other side of the counter with an arm full of canned beans. He was one of our regulars, a big guy with beady eyes and a pointy nose. Like most days, the only thing he had on was a pair of overalls and several days' worth of musk. He dropped his supplies in front of me to ring up. Old Bob, I said loud enough to make him flinch. I need you to watch the store for us for a few minutes, okay? It won't take long, an hour tops. The register is super simple. You scanned things here and put the money in here." He appeared somewhat flummoxed, uttering a nervous, What? As I handed him my name badge and the keys to the cash register and pulled the bat out from its hiding place. "Don't worry, you'll be fine. I owe you one. Thanks." With that, Rosa and I hurried out of the gas station to the parking lot. It took us no time to decide on whose car we were going to take. Mine had only been out of the shop for a couple days, and technically I wasn't legally allowed behind the wheel until after I took a test to prove I could still drive. Without any debate, we climbed into Rosa's VW Beetle and hit the road.